Delegates to the American Continental Congress approved and signed a Declaration of Independence on July 4th, 1776. The new country, called the United States of America, was at war with Britain. Yet not everyone in the former colonies agreed on the decision. No one knows for sure how many Americans remained loyal to Great Britain. The Massachusetts political leader, John Adams, thought about 33% of the colonists supported independence, 33% supported Britain, and 33% supported neither side. Most history experts today think that about 20% of the colonists supported Britain. They say the others were neutral, or supported whichever side seemed to be winning.
An estimated 9 million people rock climb in the United States. Millions more take part in the activity around the world. Some do it just for personal satisfaction. Others compete. Rock climbing can be dangerous, but there are many methods and protective devices that can increase a climber's safety. Climbing takes strength, control, and good balance. Climbers have to pull themselves straight up the face of very high rocks or walls, so they have to be strong enough to carry their own weight. And climbers sometimes have to hold on to rocks by only their fingers or toes.
There are several kinds of rock climbing. Traditional rock climbing is done outside. Climbers wear ropes and attach devices to the rocks as they climb many hundreds of meters up. They also connect their ropes to the devices. If a climber slips, a rope can stop him from falling.
Researchers at the University of California claim to have discovered that people who eat chocolate regularly tend to be lighter than those who rarely eat it. The findings may seem surprising in that chocolate has a great many calories, and in general, the more calories people consume, the more likely they are to put on weight. The results studies emphasize that is more the regularity with which people eat chocolate that is significant rather than the amount they consume. Whether they eat little or a lot seems to make no difference, whereas eating it frequently appears to reduce weight more than only having it occasionally.
So far in our discussion of chemical reactions, we have assumed that these reactions only go in one direction, the forward direction, from left to right as we read it in an equation. That's why our arrow points from left to right. Reactants react together to make products. However, this is not exactly how things occur in nature. In fact, practically every chemical reaction is reversible, meaning the products can also react together to reform the reactants that they were made of. So instead of writing that single arrow facing from left to right, a more appropriate symbol would be a double arrow, one going from left to right and one going from right to left. Reactants are continuously reacting to form products, but at the same time, as those products are formed, they remake the reactants. They're both going simultaneously, forming each other. This is what we would call a state of equilibrium.
Newspapers Canada has released a new fact sheet providing an overview of the top-line results for Canadian adults age 18-34 who embrace technology to access newspaper content, while still reading in print. 9 out of 10, 87%, of these young adults read newspaper content in print, on their desktop, laptop, on their phone or via their tablet. Phone is their primary reading platform to match their on-the-go lifestyle. Newspapers Canada continues to research newspaper readership across different platforms and by time of day. The most recent research was conducted in January 2016 and confirms the continued strength of newspaper readership across all demographics, including young adults and millennials. Since then, Ottawa has been trying to deport him as a danger to Canada. Jabala, a father of 6 who had arrived in Canada in 1996, spent years in prison, before being released under strict bail conditions. In support of its arguments, Canada's spy service claimed Jabala, after his arrival in Canada, disseminated terrorist propaganda, kept contacts with the Al-Jihad leadership and members abroad, and had contacts with several Islamic extremists in this country. Ottawa also relied on an Interpol red notice regarding outstanding charges in Egypt against Jabala for being a member of a terrorist organization, and maintained his travel pattern in the Middle East before coming to Canada was consistent with that of a Mujahid extremist. Hansen rejected all those assertions. It cannot be reasonably inferred from his presence in Afghanistan at some unidentified time for some unknown duration and his presence in Yemen that he fought in Afghanistan or trained in Yemen or in any way engaged in the activities of a Mujahid extremist, the judge wrote. She also said the existence of charges in Egypt contained in the Interpol notice was in no way proof he had actually done anything.
Newspapers Canada has been actively concerned with the state of freedom of information in Canada since 1997. Reporters and editors with experience in FOI had long complained of governments restricting information despite legislative guarantees of access. In order to assess the seriousness of the match, the Canadian Newspaper Association initiated an annual FOI audit in 2005. The purpose of the national survey is to gather objective information on the health of Canada's access to information and test how readily officials close information that should be publicly available on request.
Every year, foreign governments and other overseas entities spend about $500 million trying to influence American policy, according to the Project on Government Oversight. The Foreign Agents Registration Act, FARA, enables researchers to track their spending and sway. The federal law was adopted in 1938 when Congress was worried about Nazi propaganda in the United States. It was updated in 1966 to cover activities more broadly political. Today under FARA, which is run by the U.S. Department of Justice, lobbyists and other organizations are required to regularly declare their relationships with foreign principals, their meetings, payments, as well as the informational materials they use to influence policymakers, such as presentations, email correspondence, even draft legislation. Much of the documentation is available on the FARA website, though there are holes in both the legislation and implementation.
The mid-20th century Great Migration of African Americans from the South to the urban North represents one of the largest internal migrations in history. That pattern in some ways is being reversed. The return migration proceeded beneath the radar of scholars until the late 1990s and 2000s, when northeastern and midwestern cities such as New York, Philadelphia, Detroit, and Chicago, prime destinations during the Great Migration, endured extreme population loss as the reverse migration to the south intensified. From 2000 to 2010, the black population increased most in the suburbs of four southern cities: Atlanta, Washington, D.C., Dallas, and Houston, popular destinations for America's growing black middle class, Frey 2015. As part of these trends, researchers are looking at dynamics relating to the emergence of the middle-class black suburban enclave. Entrepreneurs and technology startups face the challenge of developing their technology next to the development of customers. A relevant topic regarding this problem are the commercial capabilities and orientations of the new technology ventures. Analysis of 68 technology startups and spin-offs show the beneficial influence of having commercial capabilities within the founding team on the business performance. This benefit is even higher when the startups are focused on their competitors. How the acquired market information regarding the customer or competitor is processed within the startup team affects the business performance as well. This shows that possessing commercial capabilities as startup founders is crucial for startup success and survival, where these capabilities enable the organization to process competitor information correctly.